And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Atlas Lens Co. We're here for another Tuesday telecast with my beautiful wife, Sharon. We have my special guest, Nar, and fantastic technical production, as always, by B, but just B today because the rest of the team has abandoned us. They went to Amsterdam. They're there for the trip. Let's see how it goes. Hope everybody's doing great out there. It's a Tuesday techno telecast today because there's so many new technical products coming out today. I don't know about you. What are some of the top new technical products you're excited about? I'm really excited about this new Fujifilm GFX 100 II. I was going to call it a Mark II, but I think they just call it GFX 100 Junior, the second.
It's so small.
I mean, we got a nice Mercury 42 millimeter lens, which actually does a really good job of covering a 16:9 crop out of the 44:33 medium format sensor, which is pretty amazing.
That's pretty big.
So be on the lookout on our YouTube channel for some test footage and a couple nice little pieces of narrative content done with Atlas, Mercury, and Orion series lenses on the new GFX 100 Mark II. Big shout out to Fujifilm for putting a lot of anamorphic modes into the GFX 100 Mark II. Really excited about that. The other big news today I'm excited about is Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max XL. I think it's
Junior.
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 So that's what I'm really thrilled about. How about you? What are you excited about today?
Today, just happy to be here. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Let us know where you're tuning in from today. Love to see
Drop
where
it in the comments. Let us know. Hit us up with questions. Let us know where you're tuning in from.
Yeah.
Sony released a new camera today too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
what's that one called? A
Guano? Gorlami. I think it's Burano.
I think that Burano. Baraka.
Who named it? Yeah.
Barada.
Beretta?
Barada. No, do you know the
Wouldn't
quote
do that.
from The Day There Stood Still? Barada. Nick too.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out The Day There Stood Still, a fantastic monochrome science fiction film. So
Nice.
one of today's topics.
Yeah.
Like how I brought that back.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice.
Full circle.
We have Nar, special guest today. He's an expert in monochrome. Sharon, also a big fan of monochrome, and we've got the zone system being represented here today. I'm the dark area of the zone system. Sharon is the highlight section, and then I think you're representing midtones, right?
Yeah, we'll go with midtones.
Yeah, we'll go with that. This is almost 18% gray. It's like 12%
Yeah,
gray.
it's getting there.
Just don't wash it for a couple weeks. Go to Amsterdam. Don't wash it.
Don't wash it and come
See how
back.
it
Yeah.
goes. So yeah, we're here to talk about monochrome, new technology, science fiction films.
Oh,
Sharon and
yeah.
I just got to watch Blade Runner last Friday at Art Center.
The original?
It was the director's cut, the original film director's cut. They said it was a 35 millimeter print, but I want to actually talk to the projectionist. So thankfully we know a few people over at the Art Center. We can actually ask about how they projected it because it looked so pristine and there was no gate weave in the projection at all. So I don't know if it's just because they have a really nice projector at the Amundsen Auditorium or if it was actually a digital projection. But
I mean, it is the art center.
it was, what did you think? I mean, it brought me to tears when I saw
You
it.
did
I was
cry.
losing my mind. Like, I'll let you speak for a little bit about what you thought watching the film. This was your first time seeing the original Blade Runner in full length,
Yeah,
right?
I have to admit, over the years, I've only seen little snippets here and there, so I had not watched the full film, so that was quite a treat. And also, the concept artist is from Art Center, Sid Mead. And Dan and I had the opportunity to go actually listen to him speak a few years ago when he was
At
alive.
Forest Lawn Museum. So if you didn't know, did you know that Forest Lawn Cemetery
The one in Glendale?
in Glendale, you
yeah.
know, they have this incredible art museum.
Yeah.
It's
just always weird going to a cemetery for art, but you know.
Right.
I mean, I think it's kind of a cool message. Like, the preservation of past history, and the people who created it, and then celebrating that instead of treating it like some dark thing. I think celebrating it's kind of neat.
It's true.
That's a good point.
I think I'm probably going to be cremated, but if I was, maybe I could have my ashes put at that cemetery. I like that cemetery. I think it's pretty cool. A lot of cool people there.
I grew up next to it.
There you go. Got any spooky stories?
You just go up top in the hill and just like overlook the city when we were like 12 years old. That's pretty much all I have.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
space.
Nice place to view from. I like the backside of the hill too that goes up there. So if you're traveling from Highland Park, when we used to live in Highland Park, I would always drive along the backside to go down into Silver Lake area, and it's a really nice drive. Frogtown, just a great transition. I love that area. So.
Yeah, good bike
Yeah.
path.
Where Warner Brothers is, that whole back area.
Watching Blade Runner, which is to me one of the films that inspired me to pursue anamorphic lenses and starting Atlas Lens Co. What would you say were some of your key takeaways as someone who is an artist? So you have a background in graphic design and visual arts, and you went to Art Center, and you're growing your career in cinematography right now. So you're really interested in developing documentary films and pursuing that part of your creative expression and development. What would you say were some of your key takeaways watching that film?
Well, to be honest, because I've been so close to what you do, and at the beginning when we were first dating, I couldn't really go to a theater without like being interrupted by it, because you'd be like, that's Panavision C series, because of the bouquet. I'll be like, shut up, we're trying to watch a film here. But now that I've been around it so much, I love of course, the visual aesthetic, the concept design, the directing, the acting, everything was amazing. But I was starting to really look for those lens, elements as well now, like the bokeh, the breathing that you talk about.
You've become one of us.
Yes, I've,
Once,
to the dark
once you
side
see
now.
it, you can't unsee it. So, like, one of the big challenges is taking yourself out of that mindset once you're in the visual lens mindset when you're analyzing a movie. But, I was really grateful that I was able to actually switch back and forth between just enjoying the story and enjoying the narrative and the acting and the art design. My God, I just have to say that was a masterwork. Like, when people talk about high art, I think what I took away is watching it again after not watching it for many years is they were treating this film as high art when they were making it, and you could tell that they were thinking, hey, we're making fine art here. Like, the level of craftspersonship that went into every shot, and listening to Stephen Poster, ASC, who was shooting Second Unit, he was in the audience.
He was there. Yeah.
And I hadn't realized that he shot Second Unit on the film, but I'm a huge fan of Stephen Poster's work in movies like Donnie Darko. He was Second Unit or operator on Big Trouble in Little China, which is another really cool 80s movie. So he's worked on some of my favorite films, and listening to him speak about his experience working with Ridley Scott and with the team there, and just his experience running Second Unit was really a treat too.
Without much resources at that time.
What year was that? It's like
1980, 81.
Yeah,
81
early
they were
80s.
filming. It came out in 82.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of like Los Angeles landmarks. That was
The $1 Million
that was cute,
Theater. The famous building.
Famous
yeah.
building.
At the Barnsdall Park.
The Barnsdall.
Yeah, Frank Lloyd Wright.
The Frank Lloyd Wright building, but also it's in a ton of other noir movies. So I love that it's also like truly this is like a noir story, and so they're paying homage to noir of the 40s and 50s and even before that, but through a science fiction lens. Just
With visual effects that hold up still.
pretty much. I mean,
Like-
some of the stuff with the spinner, the
Yeah.
car, I think they just call it the spinner because the car rotates when it was like elevating and decelerating. But I just love the acting, and then I think it's really interesting to look at what they talk about in terms of cloning and sort of where we're at with that, because we're kind of in that time now,
It was set in November 2019.
right before the pandemic.
Right.
But what a wild movie, and just such a treat to watch. But visually, what were your takeaways about the lenses? Like, what were some of the things you were noticing when you watched
Initially,
it?
when the film started, I was kind of looking for those characteristics of Anamorphic, and then I didn't quite see it until that close-up of Harrison Ford inside the vehicle. Then I saw, the everything that was going on in the back, the bokeh that was kind of smeary, and it just feels like a film. It feels like a movie. Like you always say, it's all the films that we grew up with, like Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Takes you to that mindset, like, oh, I'm actually watching this film, this art piece. It's very beautiful. Yeah, great experience.
I think the atmospheric effects, I think both Ridley and Tony Scott have been noted for like loving putting atmosphere into the film with foggers, hazers, like more haze, more haze. That's what Stephen Goldblatt, ASC, was saying. They would just want to layer smoke, haze, fog, and then rain. So there's so much liquid and smoke and atmosphere in the shots, but then just the level of detail in terms of controlling the way that the liquid would be flowing. So you have all these shots of like water running down the walls inside J.F. Sebastian's apartment, which is in the Bradbury building. Bradbury, I was like, it's definitely a science fiction
Yes.
name. Bradbury building is the other landmark that we were thinking of. But such a fascinating level of attention to detail that I was like, I don't think I could ever achieve this level of masterwork in my work. But I feel like maybe my masterwork is somewhere else in terms of hoping to make lenses that make other people's films look great in their hands. So that's kind of, I think, what my purpose is here in this world. But I can certainly appreciate the hell out of that movie. So thank you for being an Art Center alum and inviting me to the screening. It was the best date night in a long time. But yeah, so we're looking at monochrome today, and you brought in your, what is this? We're looking at us through
a monochrome Komodo.
And what's this lens today?
That's a 25 Orion.
25 Orion. What a beauty.
Unless you change the ISO on the camera, we're still at
2000. We're at 500.
Did you change it?
We're at a 500 ISO and T56.
Great.
Deep stop.
When I turned it on, it was at 2000, so I was going to say this is at the native.
I was wondering why it was so bright earlier.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a great sensor. We got it to be able to kind of just have it as a secondary camera for whenever we want to shoot monochrome stuff, and we've been fortunate enough to use it on some projects. But just as an everyday camera, as you know me, I just love black and white, everything.
Yeah, you were doing monochrome photography a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey into photography, and how did you get interested in photography and image making?
Well, as a kid, Art Center was offering these extracurricular classes every Saturday. It was like 30 hours per course. So I started taking those classes when I was in junior high, I think.
Saturday
Wow.
High.
Yeah, you remember.
Saturday High.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was for designing and drawing, because I wanted to be a car designer as a kid. Doing so, apart from developing film at school, it was like I never connected digital photography to film photography, but I bought a digital camera as a reference point to start using it to draw things. And then I just stopped drawing, and I just kept taking more photos as a regular because it was more available. It didn't involve developing, processing, going through all of that. It was one of those Sony point and shoots, the circular one. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. It was like an elf, like a digital elf, or like a something similar.
It looked like a tiny, like a pill almost.
Oh, was it the one that was vertical? Like
Yeah,
this? Oh,
yeah.
I had one of those.
So
Those
that
were
was my
cool.
first digital
It was like
camera.
a spy camera.
Yeah.
Shout out, going full circle today. So we managed to connect the Art Center connection.
I did not know that
Art
Yeah,
Center,
yeah.
Sid Mead, vehicle design,
Yeah, so
Black and white
futurism,
photography.
monochrome photography, Sony with the Burano.
there you go.
So it's all tying together pretty nicely.
But yeah, just photography came as a main thing for me, and then I would just take pictures of my friends' cars.
Did you
in
get
high
to do any
school.
darkroom photography at the Art Center or
No, it was only at my high school and at Brooks.
at Brooks? So you
Yeah.
got to do
That's
some
right.
darkroom development processing.
Yeah, when I went to college, our year was the first year that they were transitioning digital photography with film, because prior to that it was strictly film. So we learned how to develop 4x5 film in 120 and
Wow.
and 35. Well, 35 I knew, but all of it, and at the same time shooting 4x5 digital sensor. Yeah, with like
How do you do that with the Cambo back? Is that like a converter?
it was Phase One. What was the company they were called before? They
There's
were
Leaf.
Leaf. So it was Leaf sensors on the back of them
Wow.
instead of the ground glass. So we had to did everything twice, essentially. So we did everything digital and everything in film.
And then you kind of have a comparative reference
Yeah.
point. That's neat. So you just like slide out the Leaf
really
Phase
intense.
1 back and then put in the film.
No, we would do it all separately.
Oh, I was thinking you'd do the same shot twice. But
I mean, we did that,
Sometimes.
but they wanted us to do it all separately, so you
Mm.
were able to understand the difference of it. But I mean, all look the same at the end of the day. You know, it's pushing or pulling a stop here and there.
Did you
if
have
that.
to expose more for the shadow or for the highlights for the digital version versus?
Well, digital was very much more sensitive, I would say. So
like it'll clip faster
Yeah.
or, yeah.
this is also like 15 years ago.
'Cause that's the thing that that Dan kind of showed me when I was shooting digital, was that fact that like don't expose like the highlights. We can always don't clip the highlights because you can't recover that.
Correct.
But in the shadows you can always recover
pull
that
back,
in
yeah.
digital versus film where it's the other way, right?
Yeah. And at the
Little
time,
more
we thought these
sensitive.
sensors were capable. They were like 21 megapixel large format sensors, and we used those same backs on Hasselblad and Phase 1 medium format for like portraiture classes as well. So we were able to like recycle them. But at the time, we were blown away by the quality of it.
And we got to use a Fujifilm GFX 100 Mark I when we did the photography for Warner Brothers Studios for the tour guide, right? For the tour book.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I totally forgot.
So that
about
was
it.
like a really incredible
Yes.
experience.
Oh my gosh, so much detail in that. Yeah, we got to use that. Thank you so much, Fuji.
I'm really excited about this camera personally.
So when you guys shot, you said you shot something on it already?
Yeah, I designed
My buddy
a
shot some
guidebook
stuff,
for
but I want to
the-
hear your.
If you guys are ever in the LA area, it's worth it to go to the Warner Brothers tour in Hollywood. I worked on the guidebook for that, and
Nice.
Dan and I shot the the for it as well, and we got to use the
GFX 100,
That's
the Mark
right.
I. But to me, this is probably one of my favorite camera
Did
systems.
they change
for-
anything physically from the first one?
This is a lot different. So it's lighter. I mean, we have this cage on here, which makes it a little heavier, and the PL mount. But I can tell right off the bat it's lighter. They moved to a different battery system. The batteries last longer, even though they're smaller. And recording-wise, it does ProRes inboard. The stills, I think, are 100 point something megapixels, so
Oh.
no lack of resolution when shooting stills. And I'd say this is kind of like, this is my preferred stills camera.
And you said it has anamorphic modes.
It has a ton of
in
anamorphic
stills mode.
D-squeeze and recording modes. Stills mode, no, but I'm pushing them
We need
for
that.
the firmware.
Yeah, we
for
definitely need
sure.
that.
That'd be cool.
For sure. But I think this is just an incredible tool, and it has CF Express for your media, so it's like a nice media standard that's fast, relatively affordable now. Shout out OWC, shout out ProGrade, everybody making really affordable, Angelbird, everybody making affordable,
Good media.
standardized good
Yeah.
media these days.
Yeah. Thank you
so
to
yeah.
Michael from Fujifilm.
Yeah, big shout out to Michael and Victor at Fujifilm. So really excited for all of you to see the films that we made with this beautiful baby. So let's see if there's any questions coming in from the audience. Do we feel like we had some? I know some people wanted to see some
We need to
flares,
see flares.
but
flares.
you know, what does a flare look like in monochrome? It's flary, just no color, right? But are there any questions from the audience, B?
Not so far. I'm curious about what the different color LED flares would look like in black and white. I'm sure the intensity is different.
So that's blue.
I like the bubbles
that's
on that
green.
one.
Can you just soft press it and it all?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Wait,
You don't have to turn.
what do you mean soft? Oh,
Like, yeah, there you go.
oh, today I learned.
Ooh, look at all those
That-
makeup.
Is nice.
So we're looking at the reference monitor. If anybody is wondering why all of our heads are looking
Sorry.
that way, no, don't be sorry. We're looking at these beautiful flares.
It's like the
It's
here.
green
really
isn't as
beautiful.
powerful.
I mean, the monochrome. So, question for you: what is the advantage of shooting something on the monochrome, the red camera, versus shooting it on, some other, and then
Shooting in a
converting
color
it to
sensor
monochrome?
and then
Yeah.
converting to monochrome.
Well, the image is sharper and the sensor is way more sensitive. And because there's no color involved at all, because they remove just to bear off the sensor, you are allowed. You're given a more high quality image to work with. So I've done comparisons, and you can get away with it for sure. And there's major films that do shoot color and convert to monochrome. Jonah Hill's Studs documentary did a good example of that.
I didn't see that one yet. That's. I bet that's good. I love Jonah Hill.
It's a good
Shout
film.
out Jonah.
And they utilize the comparison and the usage of monochrome to RGB really well. So it's doable, but I just prefer to go just straight to the source of no color.
To elaborate a little deeper on that, most CMOS sensors use what's called a Bayer pattern. And so the Bayer pattern is using, all the pixels are essentially monochrome secretly. But they're using a color filter array, a CFA.
To
And the
identify
color filter array filters the color wavelengths into different buckets, basically. So if we think of each pixel as a bucket, it's collecting photons, and photons are like water. It's selecting which bucket the photon gets into. So you start with a lot of resolution, and then the CFA filters those photon buckets so that you're ending up with 2 green pixels, 1 red pixel, and 1 blue pixel. So that's how it's dividing the light rays and processing it. So it's using that filter array and some hardcore computational photography algorithm to basically recreate colors from what's happening in the world that we're experiencing. So secretly, all of the pixels are actually monochrome, but they're being converted into color pixels by that CFA and by the Bayer pattern algorithm. But there are sensors, like for example, Fujifilm's X-Trans sensor technology, which is not in this camera yet, and won't be
Is
in
that
this
their
physical
monochrome?
camera. It's not their monochrome. It's just a different non-Bayer color filter array system that gives you more color information.
Oh.
So, if you're designating 2 green pixels out of all pixels, then you're kind of definitely focusing more on the green, but you might be throwing away some red and blue information, and then this can affect other sort of secondary colors like yellow. So you get like different levels of detail in the yellow, and that can be enhanced mathematically in the processing. And I personally think the Fujifilm X-Trans color is some of the best. I'd also put the Blackmagic Design Ursa Mini 12K sensor up there as one of the top in terms of color rendition from my personal perspective. But some of the world's most popular cameras, like the Arri Alexa 35, Alexa Mini LF, Sony Venice, they all use a Bayer pattern, and then they'll use various types of color processing, what people like to refer to as color science.
Right.
It's really color math, but leave
Math
that up
is
to
science.
yeah, that's true.
You know?
Leave that up to the scientists, but I'm a big fan of the Ursa Mini 12K sensor and the Fujifilm X-Trans sensor, and so I'm really excited to see a medium format X-Trans if they ever do that. I think that would be game changing in terms of color rendition, but this is a lot of pixels, and so
I want to see
really,
a monochrome version of that.
that'd be neat too.
Yeah.
You're not really missing out in terms of the level of color and fidelity you get with 100 megapixels because
No, not at all.
you're able to recalculate all those pixels into being whatever color you want each pixel to be.
There's so much detail.
Plenty of information
Yeah.
there, so no shortage, and that really goes across the board whether we're looking at the Red Komodo 6K, but there's some level of special purity, and as you said, sensitivity. Since there's no color filter array, you basically get more photons
Yeah.
into those photon buckets that are the pixel wells.
And Komodo's not known to be like a low light camera. It's really not. So this actually was really fun at night with like a T2 lens. Just kind of on there, and you just shoot some night stuff, and it looks really, really good. Yeah.
I love the color science out of a color
Regular one,
Komodo
yeah.
too, and I
Same.
love the global shutter. So like,
Yeah.
I haven't had any time to play with the global shutter monochrome Komodo, but the feeling of motion with a global shutter is
Natural.
fantastic because each frame blanks, so there's no pixel readout
Right.
time, so you don't get jello when you pan fast. So if you're doing like
Smoother
a whip
to your
pan,
eye 'cause it's
or if you have
natural to it.
strobes, so you can actually like film strobes. and
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
totally great and natural.
When-
Whereas with other cameras, you get like
When the Komodo came out, Clay from Red tapped us in, me and my buddy Jay, to help him film some of the ads. And one of the main ads that we shot was to highlight strobe photography. So you're shooting a motion campaign that happens to have strobes. You can continue shooting it and pull frames from it that are not cut in half, as you said, when you do strobe. So it was really, really satisfactory.
because your
to do that.
readout time's not fast enough.
Yeah.
To blank, the frame blanking time's not fast enough. So that makes me excited because I love the aesthetic of strobes in motion picture photography. So if we think about any movie with a rave scene, you know, for instance, Blade,
I was thinking Blade.
you know,
Blade, yes.
thanks, VI, right? I'm just someone
So
who's
good.
very drawn to that sort of hyper aesthetic of, you know, to me, it's a euphoric feeling that's very well represented in those visuals. And I had sort of a different sort of euphoric feeling watching Blade Runner. That was like, it just made my heart sing. It was such a treat. And, you know, Sid Mead's partner was there speaking. So big shout out Art Center for getting
Love Art Center, man.
NAR interested in photography, for helping Sharon's career, and basically connecting us. Because I think if it wasn't for
yeah.
Art Center, we wouldn't know each
Never
other
would've
and
met,
never would have
yeah.
gotten married. So
That's awesome.
thank you, Art Center, for helping my romantic life.
The next
Yeah,
live
you-
stream will be from Art Center.
We should do a live stream from Art Center. I mean,
And you're a guest lecturer there.
You know, the
That's
cool
true.
thing about Art Centers I'll give is the campus in Pasadena where they highlight all the students' works. I used to go there every year, even in college and after college, to check out like all the concept designs.
grad show exhibition.
Oh man, it was
Yes.
so rad.
Amazing
Like
talent, yes.
And you were saying that
Absolutely.
Ralph McQuarrie is
It's from Art
also
Center
so
alum.
Sid Mead,
Yes.
Ralph McQuarrie, Ansel Adams, bringing monochrome photography back
Yes.
into it,
Used to teach.
taught at Art Center.
Yep.
And Art Centers existed since the late 1930s, early 1940s, which I didn't know until
Yeah.
yesterday
I
when we
think
were
it was
talking about it.
on 7th Street, I believe.
In downtown LA.
when it
And we
first
used to live on
started.
7th Street.
I know, which is funny. Yeah, you're totally
What a
right.
trip.
what, near Tony's and
We lived,
Pizzanista?
we
Los
lived on
Angeles
7th and Los
and
Angeles
7th.
Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tony's around there.
That's not far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Skid Row adjacent.
Yeah,
Next to the $1 Million Theater. All the Blade Runner things.
that's it.
Oh
Especially
my
Skid
God,
Row.
there's too many connections today.
So,
Did Skid Row inspire Blade Runner?
well, you might say that. So, if anybody has anything they want to ask about Atlas lenses, about monochrome photography, about Art Center, we didn't do a very good job engaging with the audience today, but we did have fun talking about really cool things.
So
And we had fun playing with flares.
Should we see what flares on a 1.5 lens would look like compared to the 2X?
I mean, I'm down to swap a lens, and then I'll help swap the lens. And then if you want to queue up any questions that come in from the audience while we do the lens swap,
That's a good point.
hit us in the
Silver
comments.
edition.
Do you want to see a 36 Mercury, 42 Mercury, or a 54 Mercury? I'm thinking 36, but if you have a different request, hit us in the comments. And meanwhile, B, we'll help queue up things while we do a lens swap.
So a question from Scott says, looks great on monochrome, really enjoy what I've seen, but I haven't had a chance to try it. What are some of your favorite black and white scope films and why?
What are you saying?
I like Mank a lot because of the whole style of the way it was filmed. And even the audio capture of the film was just very classic, and it was.
But that wasn't shot anamorphic.
Oh, I thought you meant.
But I think the audience member was asking
Yeah.
about.
I wasn't
scope
paying
films in
attention. I
particular.
apologize.
That's okay. You're all good. I mean,
That's
the heart
okay.
wants what the heart wants,
Sure.
and in this case, the heart wanted Meg.
I want Meg.
That's
Yes.
fine.
Dang it.
Have you guys watched Passing on Netflix?
That's a great choice.
Yeah, that
You were
was
just
shot.
telling. I need to watch that now. You were just
Yeah.
telling me that.
Oh my goodness, so beautiful. Shot on Lomos, I think, and it said it was delivered on 1.7K. He shot on 1.7K to make it look even softer. And the story of that is about a woman who's trying to pass as a Caucasian woman. And so that's why the choice of the monochrome worked, because it wasn't about complexion. It was about the characters and how
And that's
they
Tessa
move
Thompson's
through.
character, right?
Yes. Oh no, it's
No.
the other lady. I forgot her
Okay.
name.
Get a little closer.
Get a little closer. Okay.
So we're on the 36 millimeter mercury now.
Hair's all crazy. I like the 36. It's so versatile.
So you can see my off-axis one. Tip that off for a second. So I like these off-axis flares when it's outside the frame.
It's nice.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
I'm checking your ear.
Yeah.
This is what I do to my kids. Is Mickey Mouse in there?
Nope. Just goofy. Yeah, this looks rad. Should I do off axis?
And one grab a flashlight. Do we have any more questions? Did that answer?
Yeah, Dan, do you have any favorite black and white anamorphic movies?
Yeah, Dan. Do you?
I do, but my brain is kind of tapped out for today. There's a bunch of French New Wave films
Oh, that's true.
that are done in monochrome, in anamorphic.
You know, I need to up my game on more of my
Yeah, 600
monochrome
blows.
films. To be honest with
400 blows.
Is it 400 or 600?
That's the sequel, 600 blows. We can make that. 400 blows.
Does this have
That's,
anything to do with 300?
yes. 300. That's about a Chrysler, right?
Yeah.
In a Chrysler with some
The budget Bentley.
like Romans. Like what are
This is.
Chrysler.
Oh, which by the way, Zack Snyder is from Art Center.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of car designers, like major car designers, are from Art Center as
Yeah.
well.
That's right. So true.
The designer for like
The bug.
Enzo Ferrari, and then he ended up running the company for a while. But he was an Art Center alum that I was fortunate enough to get like a few lectures from him back in the day
Oh, nice.
when he was not that major. But still,
I
yeah.
just remember being
Lot of big
there,
heads.
just being around so many passionate, talented people, and
Yeah.
it was an amazing environment. I'm glad I got to go.
It was the
See
drive
that
that honestly was like I found it just going on drives through the mountains with my friends because that's what we would do as kids. And
too.
just,
Up Lida.
yeah, just go
Yeah.
up Chevy Chase and then make a right and then yeah, just cruising around. We were like, what is this place?
It's a beautiful
Like,
campus.
Crap, this is a college here.
You'd always see deer. Like,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
always like end up going up that drive, and then there's like it's like so magical. It's like all foggy in the morning,
And
then
no one
there's
would ever
deer.
stop us from wandering around.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
just like,
it's
yeah,
a pretty
come
open
enjoy
campus,
this
yeah.
beautiful campus. Yeah, that was the best part of it. It was always welcoming. That's awesome.
And I remembered my two favorites, Breathless, a Godard film, and
Yes.
Contempt, another
Ah.
Jean-Luc Godard film.
Yes, yes.
So
So beautiful.
got to
good.
catch up on the
Yeah.
Godard, bro.
Okay. Put me on game.
You got it. Criterion Collection.
Right there.
I remember. I have a membership. I should utilize it.
Perfect. So,
Any other questions?
yeah, any other questions for the audience before we sign off?
Follow up on 400 blows. Scott's asking, was that shot on the Brevet Supermatic?
I believe that 400 blows was shot with the Brevet Suprematic zoom scope, which is part of the Atlas Anamorphic History Museum here in Glendale, California. And if you go back to our previous live streams, you can actually see that lens being tested with B and myself and some of our other teammates here like Miette. So be sure to check out some of the restreams if you haven't seen those before. We do a lot of vintage lens tests. Every Wednesday we have a community-centric event called Wednesday here in Glendale, California.
Please come.
Free
Yeah,
coffee,
come
free
tomorrow.
crepes, bring your own lenses, bring your own camera. We have tons of lenses and cameras for you to try. But it's like a car show for lenses, basically, is how I'd like to describe it. And it's a nice hangout. So that goes from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can experience the wonderful world of widescreen cinematography here at the Atlas headquarters. And otherwise, tune in every Tuesday. Today was our Tuesday Techno telecast. Shout out Apple, shout out Fujifilm, shout out Sony,
Golarm.
shout out
Gorlami.
Blackmagic Design, who's coming out with something, I believe, according to their
Oh.
Twitter. I don't know anything about that,
X.
but
I'm
I
excited.
don't speak X. But check out IBC. If you're in Amsterdam, if
Yes.
you're in Europe, take a little hop over the water. If you're anywhere near Amsterdam, come say hi at the Atlas Lens Co booth this Friday, this weekend at IBC. And hope to see you at Wednesday Lens Day tomorrow. And if not, say hi to our team at IBC. And we'll see you soon. Dan out.
Oh.
What the?